She likes good pizza. She loved our pizza. I know that. And she's a good eater, as my mother would say. She's very funny. She's a very, very warm-hearted, very funny person. Believe me, she isn't what you hear on the radio, and so if you met her for 5-10 minutes, your whole idea of her would change. She loved my parents. She absolutely loved them. My parents were both very, very young immigrants. My mother came over here on a freighter back in the early 30s. My father did the same, to come to the United States also. Both of them to live with their fathers. They both wind up living right here on 4th Street in Troy. They grew up together on the same block and they knew each other. There were immigrants from all over Europe. There was Polish, there was Ukrainian, there was German, there was French, there was Irish, Italian. There were so many factories along the river. You could always find a job in Troy. It was all hard work. There was nothing easy. My mother had to start working in the local clothing factory when she was like 14 years old. My mom made 25 cents an hour sewing buttons on children's clothes, which she told me she couldn't afford. And my father had to go out and work. My father worked $1 an hour as a crane operator at a steel mill, the local steel mill, Republic Steel. And eventually, because of an accident, he wound up opening up his business. Then he started the store, the Italian A. DeFazio Imports. Worked up until his 90s. And my mom also. She worked until she was in her late 80s. They're very active in their church and their community, very socially conscious. That's that whole immigrant mentality, trying to help others. Because they were given so little help, they remember coming over, the hardships that one faces when one comes over without any type of safety net. And they understood that, and they knew that people needed to be helped. They were doing the right thing, and for the right reasons. She was recruited by a group that was looking to change the unfair immigration laws that were passed back in the 30s to keep Southern Europeans out of the United States. He and my mother worked on this for decades. Going to Washington, D.C., going to Albany, talking to politicians, writing letters, lobbying to get this done. Eventually, the bill was signed by Jimmy Carter. And the laws were changed. Because of all the work he did, he wound up having a private audience with Pope John Paul, which he said was the most amazing thing he's probably ever done, you know. The first time I received a phone call, it was so funny. I thought it was a recorded message asking for money, and I hung up right away because I was too busy in the store. I said, "No, I'm sorry, I can't. Yeah, I'm not." I hung up. Please stay on the line for Hillary Clinton, and she would like to talk to you. And I thought it was a recorded message asking me for money. I said, no, I don't have time. And then the phone rang again. I said, oh, let's see, you don't, hung up again, so I hung up twice on her. Finally, the third call, the gentleman, he goes, no, Rocco, really, this is Hillary Clinton's office. She would like to talk to you. She was senator at the time, and she read this article in the Times-Union, a very nice article about how we were trying to restore the neighborhood using our ethnic background, calling it Little Italy, and trying to stimulate more pride in the neighborhood. This was in the late 90s. A lot of people moved out of the neighborhood. There was a lot of crime.
And to make progress, you have to share ideas.
We were using this Little Italy format to try to help restore the neighborhood, and she thought it was very interesting that we were using collective memory to do this. So we finished the conversation, and I told my mother I was going to go out to get a haircut. I came back, and shortly afterwards she says to me, the mayor called. I said, the mayor called? She says, yeah, the mayor called. He wants you to call him up right away, and here's his phone number. I said, wow. I said, well, first Hillary Clinton calls, and then the mayor calls. And he goes to me, hey, Rocco, I just got a call from Senator Clinton, and she told me, whatever you're doing down there, that I better, help you out. I think that kind of impressed her, that I wasn't looking for money, which a lot of people, well, first thing they ask when they go to, I need money, I need cash to get this thing programs going, And that's how the whole thing started. And we're still going strong today. And she visited us many times. She shot her campaign video here, which was a lot of fun. She spent the entire day with us here. Funny story, during the shooting of the campaign video, my son Matthew was attending Siena at the time, and I told him, you got to come down and give me a hand because all these Secret Service people were going to be here, and I said, we're going to have to feed these guys, and and so he said, okay, I'll take the day off from class. The senator was standing behind the counter with myself, and I pointed to Matthew. I said, Matthew had to take the day off from Siena to come down here and help. And she turns to Matthew and says, would you want me to write you a note saying why you were absent from class today? Please excuse Matthew from class today. He was helping me with my campaign video. She has a great sense of humor. And she loves people, she really does. She looks in the eye, she wants to know what you know, and she just wants to know more and know about you, which you don't usually find that in politicians. You cannot be impressed when you meet her though. She's very unique and she's very smart. You have a conversation with her, you better be on your toes. She made it her point to talk, and she was standing in the middle of the room, and people would come and talk to her. And at one point, I'm standing back and I see her, and she's standing by herself. She pretty much exhausted. She spoke to everybody in the room, and she was there standing by herself, waiting for the next person to talk to. And I turned to my wife. I said, "Look at that!" I said, "She's just standing there waiting for someone else to come up to her and talk to her." It was wonderful for her to come and spend a whole day with us. I remember the Secret Service guy saying, she doesn't spend this much time in one place too often, I remember getting a phone call from a friend of mine in Texas, and he goes, "Hey Rocco, I saw you on TV, but who's the woman standing next to you?" She's a very strong woman. Oh, man. She has so much energy. I had the pleasure of seeing her in action in her office in DC. And let me tell you, not only is she working hard, all the people around her are working real hard. She surrounds herself with high energy, hard working people. She expects a lot from herself, and she expects a lot from those around her. High energy, that's what it's called. She wants to know, do you have high energy? In front of her office, there was always a group of people wanting to get in and see her or see her staff. And I told my wife, I said, Now look how those other senators' office, there was nobody in front of their offices because they were going to get things done. Being a business person, that's what I look for. Can this person do the job? The close connection between my mother and Hillary was my mother had the same experience as a young girl as Hillary's mom did. Hillary's mother came from a divorced family, and my mother came from a divorced family in the 30s, which was very unusual. Yeah, when my mom passed away, about a month and a half after she passed away, I was in the store with my father. My mom was 90, and my dad was 94. And got a phone call. It was almost the same time I got that first phone call from her, about 3:30 in the afternoon on Friday. And I pick up the phone and it says, "Hey Rocco, it's Hillary." And I said, "It sounds like Hillary Clinton, but it can't be Hillary. You know, this is when she was Secretary of State." I said, "She's all over the world." He says, "I'm calling about your mom." And I said, "Oh, it's Hillary." And he says, "I'm so sorry it's taken me so long to call you, since the death of your mother." I said, "Well, I know you've been really busy. You don't have to apologize." And she said, "Is your dad there? I'd like to talk to your dad." And I gave the phone to my dad, and they spoke, and he cried. And he gave me back the phone, and he cried some more. And she told me how great my mother was and the conversations he had with her. And you don't forget stuff like that. But she wanted to talk to my father, even though he was 94 years old, And it was the first time I saw my father cry like that. It would be wonderful if she becomes president. I don't know anyone who has probably more experience of any candidate who lived in the White House for 8 years as a first lady, who was a U.S. senator, was Secretary of State during some real trying times. Hillary tries to help those who helps others.
If she says, "I'll help you," she just does it. And if no matter what frustrations there are, she's just there day in and day out all the time.
And I met President Clinton, and I'll tell you, he is the most engaging, charismatic, very brilliant, can talk about anything on any level. He loves people. He loves the interaction. And Hillary's like that. You put Hillary and Bill in the room together, they can make electricity. She just works well with people. And she's highly intelligent. She understands the issues. She really understands that you need to help those who help others. She has to take care of so many things for so many people. And so those attributes, being wise, being courageous, being smart, taking care of those who need taken care of, that's important. She has all those attributes. She has all the attributes of a very good parent. Hillary will do that. Hillary will make sure that those who need help will get it. And that, I think, is a huge role of the president. A good president should be a good parent to everybody, not just a few. Maybe that could be her campaign slogan.